This is Julia with Stork'd, the podcast about the many ways people define and create family. I'm really excited today because we are doing something a little bit different. It's not something we've done before. And that is that I'm offering a 2-part episode around at-home insemination, specifically with a product called Mosie Baby. In these 2 episodes, we're going to hear from Maureen. She's going to talk about her journey to create this product, which was inspired by her own fertility journey. In fact, her first child and the difficulty to conceive that first child is what inspired Maureen and her husband to create Mosie Baby, and her second child is the product of Mosie Baby. I really love Maureen's story because it's a great example of using our backgrounds, our experiences, both the good and the bad, our skills and resources and talents in order to create something that will have a benefit to others. And in this case, the benefit that Maureen is offering is making at-home insemination easier and more accessible, as well as changing the conversation and removing the stigma around the many ways in which people create babies, whether it's at home or in a doctor's office. The second of the 2-part series is with Raven, and Raven and her wife used Mosie Baby to successfully conceive their first child. I'm really excited to share both stories. Here is Maureen.
How are you, Julia?
Good, thanks. I am so pleased to introduce Maureen from Mosie Baby, who's going to talk to us about her journey to create this wonderful product that serves so many, and a little bit about her own life's journey. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Maureen, and my husband and I experienced infertility as we were trying to conceive our firstborn. And this was a number of years ago now, but she's turning 6 here in a few weeks. And
good age.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So at the time, even just a few years ago, there were fewer things on the internet, fewer products, and fewer support groups. And so it was a pretty isolating experience. We tried to conceive for 2.5 years and got diagnosed with unexplained infertility. And that's how I kind of got introduced into the trying to conceive world, is because it affected me personally. And obviously it's a frustrating place to be. And I definitely feel for everybody who's experiencing that now, because it's not a path that anybody chooses. So
it definitely is not a path that anyone chooses.
Exactly. So I really feel lucky to do what we do, and that we've been able to add a product to the market to help people, to add an additional option to that path, to that journey. And what we've done is our first daughter was the inspiration for our product, and our second child is the result of our product, which is the Mosie syringe. So we created our prototype. It didn't exist when we were trying our first, and we were looking at IUI, and then, there's a path to IVF. Well, you try it 3 times and then you get to IVF and this and that and that. And it was really overwhelming and expensive. Our insurance didn't cover it. And we just kept thinking, why isn't there something we can do at home? Something simple, intimate, private, and that you had some control over. And we worked with a medical device engineer and got input from our fertility specialist. And here we are today. And, obviously it worked for us with our second, and we were able to launch our company and help people and provide another option, a low risk, low intervention option for people who want to try to empower themselves with a tool that they can use on their own.
So Maureen, there's one anecdote I want to share with you and our audience. You may not even remember this, but when we were first introduced to one another, it was in the context of a fertility journey that I'm on now. It was not in the context of the podcast that emerged later. And I met you because you're friends with a good friend of mine. And you just happened to have finished filming a video. And that video was about how to use donor sperm for an at-home insemination. So you just happen to have sitting on your desk as we were talking a vial of sperm.
Okay.
And so my first introduction to you was you handling and demonstrating for me personally how to work with a vial of sperm. And the whole thing was just fascinating. So I think that's an introduction that not many people have.
I mean, I got to tell you, that was such a cool experience for me to have that sperm. By the way, it was like bunk sperm. It wasn't like modal
So
sperm.
we weren't wasting anything.
Nobody was wasted there. And I got to have frozen sperm shipped to my house, and I got to try it out and use it. And it was so cool. We do have a video on our YouTube where I show people how to use frozen sperm at home. Whether or not you use it with Mosie, I think it's a good, helpful video to see how the vial comes and how you handle it. But yeah, like obviously I'm kind of a freak when it comes to this stuff. And I'm like just sitting at my desk with a vial of sperm. Yes.
So if you like the podcast, go look up the video because it was the exact day. The filming of that was the exact day that I met Maureen. So it's such a fascinating part of the market, this at home trying to conceive part of the market. Can you go back for a minute and just describe to us a little bit more about what the Mosie Baby product is for anyone who's unfamiliar with the turkey basting method or this option that you've created in the marketplace?
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, even in our own personal story, you don't know until you're in it, like maybe some people know and some people don't. And we were not informed until we were kind of on our way. And people were kind of whispering to us like, oh, try a syringe, try a turkey baster. And, we went on the internet and we're like, well, where's the syringe for making a baby? And couldn't find it. And it was
Did you literally Google like baby making syringe or turkey baster method?
Like, 10 different ways, 10 different things. And at the time, especially back then, it was scary, weird websites, that you were finding.
Yeah. Or, by the way, alarmingly, some really intimate YouTube videos.
Oh, yes. There's so many. Yeah. It's a dangerous path on the internet, which is like why I feel like I'm so happy that we're able to have a website that talks about this in a honest, respectful, and educational and supportive way. Like that was our goal from the beginning, because when you do get onto Dr. Google and you're starting to look at all those random sites, it's very hard to understand the information you're receiving, but also like feel comfortable with some of the sites that you're on. So that was definitely something we really worked to make our website supportive for people.
Right now, when you Google the turkey baster method, the first thing that comes up is this clean, easy to understand, explanatory website, which is your website with bright colors. So it's a really welcoming place to come and learn. And you've got quite a few videos to teach your audience about your product.
Yeah, I mean, we really are there for anybody who's just looking to learn and for options. That's first and foremost. Whether or not you use our product or you're just trying to learn about this type of insemination. So getting our product together, and when we were trying to figure this out ourselves, we did try certain things along the way and look for answers on the internet and, learn that a lot of doctors actually do refer people to use a syringe. There's a lot of scenarios where people just don't have sex or they have an obstacle, they need a penis replacement. There's so many scenarios out there that it really struck us that there was nothing respectful in this marketplace for people. Actually,
the reason I went down the Google rabbit hole because my doctor recommended that I try at-home insemination. And I was surprised. I thought it was something, I had seen it on a TV show and I thought for sure this is only something that's dramatized on this telenovela. But it turns out to be that it's a very real path for a number of people. And so you started to describe some scenarios in which an at-home insemination using your product might be useful. Can you give us a little bit more of an outline, who should turn to Mosie Baby if they need it?
Sure. And that's a good question. Ultimately, you obviously need to make decisions for yourself and in consultation with your doctor. So for people who find themselves in a place where they're looking for an option prior to IUI, they're ovulating. Obviously, that's important. They have a sperm source that they know is trusted and tested. You want to make sure that you've got STD testing done and sperm testing done if you're using a known donor and you've got your legal paperwork worked out. But otherwise, if you have a partner that you're married to and, you're frustrated, sometimes you just need a break from trying and you need to keep sex sexy and you need an option where you're like, okay, this is about making a baby and we need to separate the two mentally. That's been helpful for a lot of people. And then there are people who have unexplained infertility, people who love someone who shares their same body parts, single mothers by choice. We've had people with physical disabilities, people who have erectile issues. Maybe they have performance anxiety where they can complete by themselves, but not with their partner. it just goes on and on. We have testimonials on our website under Mosie Stories. You can read a lot of them there. It's opened my eyes up to really, without sounding like cliche or anything, but this powerful feeling that we have inside us to love another person that we haven't met yet, right? Like to create this human being that you want to love and share your life with. And the obstacles to that are hidden from view and people don't talk about are real, and they're plentiful.
Yeah. I think you've just summarized the whole purpose of this podcast is this desire to love something, whether it's another member of your family or a future child, and all of the various journeys we choose to pursue in an effort to find that or hold on to that. That's really a beautiful way of describing it.
Yeah.
So if you can describe what the Mosie product is in like a sentence or two, that would be really great.
Sure. So essentially, there's the Mosie syringe, which is a way for you to inseminate comfortably at home. And there are some specific design elements to it which help with this process. One is that the tip is rounded, it's comfortable, it's an optimal length, and it has a slit opening at the top, which is designed to make a gentler passage for that precious specimen you're working with. It's called laminar flow, if you know what that is. And as well, the plunger on the syringe pushes all the way up to maximize usage of that sample. A lot of syringes out there have a barrel. They will waste a portion of that very small specimen you're working with, which you do not want to waste. And as well, they're strange sizes sometimes for your body. But essentially, that's the Mosie syringe, and it's clean room assembled, medically manufactured.
In my other life, I'm in manufacturing, and so having clean room production is a big deal in manufacturing. But
so it's it's all that levels that it needs to be made in the U.S. And then it comes in the Mosie kit. So the Mosie kit is 2 syringes. So you have 2 attempts because we want to recommend that people try it more than once per cycle. And a collection cup. If you need a collection cup, one is included. And very supportive, easy to read, educational instructions. We want to make sure you're timing it with ovulation. Obviously, we can't control that, but we want to make sure that you know the optimal time for that for your body. And then we have as well ovulation predictor kit and pregnancy tests. They can delivered to your door, very discreet packaging as well.
That's true. And what you also have is a website that's really educational. So you've got a lot of videos around various ways that you can use this and how to predict your ovulation, and a lot of information about the cervix, which was new information to me.
Talking about the cervix. So if you're listening, ladies and gentlemen, you got to go find that cervix.
What do we need to know about the cervix and the role it plays in the fertility process?
Sure. So I just couldn't believe I didn't know this, quite frankly. And I love telling everybody about this because I think it's amazing. Your cervix changes position in your body during your cycle.
Crazy. Like, it's just amazing to think about your body. It's like an elevator, right?
It is. It's like weird because you're not controlling it. Your hormones and this orchestration that you have in your body to release them at the right time and what they do and their jobs are different, right? So you have luteinizing hormone, which is the LH that is measured with ovulation predictor kits. And during that time, your cervix is in a different position and is different texture. And if you're really good at, figuring out your cervix, you can tell whether or not it's open or closed. And when you're not ovulating, it is a different position and it's a different texture and the opening is different. So I encourage everybody to go, just in general, know that about your body, because I didn't even know that was a thing. And we have so much more knowledge than we realize about our own physical bodies. However, you got to get comfortable with your body and you're going to have to,
you're going to have to touch it.
You got to touch it. You got to get your hand down there and you got to get familiar with yourself, which is hard for some people. And I totally understand that. But I recommend, if you have the gumption to gain this knowledge about your body, just start by figuring out where your cervix is and that can take you a few tries because you're like, what is in here? I've never like felt in here. I don't understand my vagina. So yeah, it takes a little bit of practice.
Yeah, it's just so amazing how miraculous the female body is, or all bodies in general. Just the number of systems that work together to support fertility. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's also interesting that we now, as women's health progresses, are gaining this awareness. So thank you for being one of the people who's championing awareness building.
Well, and people are not used to using the word vagina or cervix or vulva. And, and so I even hesitate myself sometimes to use it on a podcast where we're talking about fertility and trying to conceive, but it's like, there's no shame.
Sometimes people swear on this podcast and they're like, can I say that? And we're kind of like, vagina? Like, oh, can I say that? Is that okay?
Can I say cervix? Can I,
Well, thank you for giving us that. Almost like a PSA. It's like you have two life missions, the Mosie Baby and then communicating about the cervix. So let's go back to your first life mission in terms of the Mosie Baby product. And as an entrepreneur, I imagine that your sense of self and your sense of your own entrepreneurialism has shifted over time. Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey into this business leadership that you've got now?
Oh, Julia. I mean, I don't even know how I got here. So I think it's one of those things where you just start, and then you can't stop yourself.
Did you start with the intention of like, I want to own and run a business? Or did you start from like, this has to be made because my journey tells me that it's just something so important?
Oh, okay. So I would say that in some sense, my husband and I have worked together before. He had his own, he had a photography business, a photography and videography business. And so I helped with some of that, just on the side. And we've always been like, well, that would be cool if we both worked together full time, that would be cool.
Yeah.
And then he came home from a run one day and was like, why doesn't this exist? We should make it. And I was like, yes, we should. How hard can it be? We had no idea.
Famous last words. How hard can it be?
Yeah, we couldn't stop, we're not your traditional background. We mortgaged our house, to launch our business. And that was what we could do at the time. And then we just continued to build it by bootstrapping and just pure grit and passion, like seeing people use our product, gain knowledge from it, empower themselves, feel confident that they've tried everything they could, before spending thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And seeing people get pregnant, and have families is just the most motivating thing in the world. And as a bonus, I get to help talk about vaginas and cervixes. And
how does this business fit into the family building journey that you've also been on?
Mosie is our firstborn because it came before our first child in some sense. But our children are obviously way more, they rank much higher. But yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like a child because I've birthed this with my husband, and we've found our roles. And, I'm the CEO and he understands like there's certain things that he's better at and I'm better at certain things. And we gravitate towards those and we fill in the blanks with people on our team that can help support us in the areas that we need support with and need awesome people to work with.
And what's it like working with your husband in general? Do you recommend it?
I would say, we are crazy. Like really think about working with your husband before you work with him. I love him. We are fiercely passionate about each other and fiercely passionate about what we do. And we're fortunate because we had worked together before. So this was not our first working arrangement. And I think that's why we've been able to make it work.
You had to change elements of your relationship or elements of your work style to accommodate one another?
I would say sure. I mean, I think you do that anyways with everybody that you work with. You adapt to the team that you have so everybody can be successful in their own ways. I would recommend working with your husband if you have certain things in place, right? Like if you guys have skill sets that are compatible and not exactly the same, which we do.
No overlap or stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool because there's a natural division of labor. And it's like any co-founder relationship, right? Like you're not going to go get somebody who has the exact same skill set as you because you do that already. Yeah. I love my husband. We love each other, but it's work, like there are times where we've had to set boundaries and stick to them. And we talk about work at certain times of the day and in certain rooms of the house. You do not talk about work unless it's an absolute pants on fire emergency in the bedroom. Like, you do not talk about it. We learned that the hard way, right? Like, because I'm always thinking about work at 10 o'clock at night, and he's like, he's just unwinding, and I'm like winding up. And likewise, he's had to learn there are times when I'm like, we're at the dinner table, we're not talking about this. I'm having time with my family. So we've had to adapt for each other, and we've set those boundaries, and we keep to them now. But there's the one thing I will say, when it's working and you guys are like kicking butt on a project, it feels so cool. There's boundaries that you have to set. There's challenges, of course, but there's a payoff too, where you're like, it's kind of amazing that I've seen him do some really kick-ass stuff and he's seen me do some really kick-ass stuff. It is pretty cool. You feel like connected in another level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your hope or your dream for Mosie Baby in the future?
I have a very specific hope and dream, which is to create a language around trying to conceive, specifically with insemination, where people understand that you're making a baby with love through this method.
So
go ahead.
There is a language out there in the trying to conceive world, and you start to recognize it with the acronym. So TTC, trying to conceive. Sure. And then you start seeing all these it's just letters floating around on the internet, and it feels very clinical and very confusing. Is that what you're hoping to address?
Mm-hmm. No. Okay. So what I'm talking about is in the vernacular. What I'm talking about is that you have the confidence and the ability to tell people whether or not you use Mosie Baby. Like, I unabashedly, of course, because I'm the co-founder and I conceived my baby with Mosie, we tell people about it. Our child is going to grow up knowing that he was conceived this way. He's our Mosie Baby. We had him. We used Mosie. He's 4. He just turned 4. He's going to understand that story. My daughter, who's going to be 6 soon, is starting to understand it. I think that people create this secretive hush-hush thing about conception stories.
Yeah.
And I want people to know, like, oh, you made your baby with Mosie? That meant you made your baby out of love. Like, you went above and beyond. There was an obstacle and you overcame it. And so understanding that as much as, we're a brand, but the ability to add something to the vernacular where there's a level of understanding, where people don't feel ashamed to tell others, and those receiving that information have a knowledge and an acceptance, and even like, oh, wow, that's cool. As opposed to, what is that? Or, oh, what did you do? Or you don't even bring it up because you don't want to have that conversation. And there's an underlying secretiveness to it all.
Like removing the shame and reframing, or almost, I hate to say this phrase, taking back the power of the story.
And it may be that one day, there's other methods or what have you, but let's stop calling it the turkey baster method. As far as like the connotation that the turkey baster method receives is one of joking.
Yeah. I thought it was so humorous until my doctor encouraged me to try it.
Right.
And actually, if your mission is to remove the shame and empower people to embrace the path, really to jump on board and say, this is what I'm doing. It's a really powerful mission of yours.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I mean, I definitely want people to know that it's okay. I mean, it's okay to use the word turkey baster. It's okay to do all that stuff. But words are powerful, and the stories we tell ourselves are powerful. And, and there's a lot wrapped up in that. But ultimately, you're doing all of that out of love. And that is what I'm talking about. There should be no shame or secrets there, because every step of that journey was motivated by love. So tell the story. Find a way for you to have your story in a way where you love it and you're empowered by it. Like, whatever your family's formation, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Family can mean anything you want it to mean. And that's where getting in the vernacular, getting in a societal level takes getting out of our bubble of trying to conceive and educating the larger society. I have big dreams and big visions, and I hope we can get to a place where it's a known method, just like IUI and IVF. And it's known that you're doing this out of love.
That's beautiful. And I have no doubt that somebody who conceived of and made happen this syringe that is easy to use and fits nicely within a body can get to whatever level you dream of.
And obviously, you know, there's the bold, industrious people who came before us. And, you know, there's the stories of the housewives who were using turkey basters in the 50s, and the stories of lesbian women, you know, using it for centuries. And, you know, there's all these stories of people, and the LGBTQ community has had to be industrious and bold and inventive. And, you know, we really, really, really greatly respect that, because, you know, there's something there to be said for recognizing within yourself that you're going to have to take things into your own hands and figure it out. We've really worked to develop branding and language where we're inclusive. So I think it's just always inherently been a part of how we've shaped this business. It's always been a part of our mission, and being as inclusive as we can. And obviously recognizing, like, we're not right for everybody. We're right for those people who are looking for a product like ours. And some people will still opt to use a turkey baster, like a literal turkey baster. And that is cool, man. Like, if that works for you, you do what works for you. So, you know, for us, it's just adding another method to the marketplace and an option for people who are looking for it, and providing education along the way for those who are curious. But yeah.
So as you sit here now, having 5-6 years of Mosie Baby under your belt and 2 young children, and a business that you run with your husband, as you sit here now, what are you most proud of?
Oh, I'm proud of making it every day. I mean, every day that my husband and I have been able to forge ahead through, you know, a lot of challenges, and having 2 children along the way, birthing children along the way. I mean, you know, that process of, like, your body is physical. So I'm proud that we've been able to build what we've been able to build and help people, and do it in a way where I know that we're continuously trying our best to just be good people. I mean, it sounds so silly and stupid, but, like, if I had to walk away today, I would be proud of the fact that we've done our darndest to be honest with people and educate people and just be good people to people who are in a tough spot.
So if you could go back and give yourself some feedback or advice or insights at the beginning of this journey, what would they be? And I think I'm curious about it from 2 perspectives. Like, what do you wish you had known as an entrepreneur? And what do you wish you had known as somebody going through the fertility process?
I'll start with the fertility process first, because it comes to mind first. And I could almost cry right now. I would tell myself it's not your fault. I felt very at fault for a very long time. And, you know, the story that you're taught as a woman in our society, as a girl, is that you're going to get pregnant in the blink of an eye. So don't have sex. And if you do have sex, make sure you're protected, and make sure you're using birth control, and make sure all this stuff that you're told and you're taught. And yes, a lot of it is true. Like, you're 15 years old. It's a lot easier for you to get pregnant. So I think I still have that feeling inside me of, like, you know, I was at fault in some way. I didn't eat right. I was too stressed out. I wasn't having sex on the right day, or we would get frustrated. Maybe we'd, like, to a point where we were fighting on the day that I was ovulating, you know, like, you just, all of it. So yeah, anybody who's feeling that right now, it's not your fault. It is not your fault. You've done nothing wrong.
The most powerful 5 words.
It really is. And it's hard to tell that to yourself.
Yeah.
And believe it, right? Like, you can tell it to yourself, but, like, truly, like, releasing that, for me, I would definitely tell myself that it's not my fault. Business-wise, what I would tell myself is trust your instincts a lot earlier. then you start doing it. Because I think I came into everything when we were just building it and we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, it was easy. You're just like, okay, it was easy to trust my instincts because that was all I had to go by, and my grit and my husband's grit, and we were just learning, right? And then at a certain point, you start to get more people around you, and they're telling you things, and you start to believe
all the voices.
Like, oh, maybe we should look at this channel, or maybe we should do this. But then in your gut, you kind of have it, and you're like, wait, no. So I did eventually swerve back, me and my husband did, to trusting our instincts about what we're doing. And, there's doubts there always, but I think having to just know that you're doing okay, like trust your instinct. You have it, you can do this, and your instinct is powerful. So it's your gut, the gut reaction phrase exists for a reason because it's true,
Yeah, I think that's applicable for everything in life is trust your instinct, but especially when you're building something new.
Definitely.
Well, such good advice. One of the questions I love to ask on this podcast is, what does family mean to you? So as somebody who helps people create families, what does family mean to you?
The simple answer is the joining of people who are shared by a bond of love, to me. Because we have genetic family, and you may or may not have them in your life. And then you have your life. And your life is what you make it, and the people you surround yourself that you choose to call family, I believe, are the people that you have a bond of love with. So that bond of love can take different definitions by the government, by religion, by yourself, by society. Ultimately, though, I think we all recognize love as a crucial part of family. And that's where I define it.
Absolutely. So you've squarely rooted your definition of family in love, in creating something out of love and building and defining something within the context of love. Before we wrap up, do you have anything that we haven't touched on that you want to make sure is communicated to our audience or in general?
The only thing, which is not to your audience, but it's to you, I just want to say, thank you for talking about this. Thank you for being another voice out there. There are more voices now than ever, and there need to be even more to get this to a level where people understand the process, the journey, and you don't question like why someone does or doesn't have a family, or why their family isn't the same exact shape as yours. Who cares? So keep talking about this. I think there's a lot that needs to change. We talk about that systemic bias, the way systems are built. And if you don't have enough voices at the table, a lot of these voices are just not seen or heard or recognized. And, certain things like forms on state papers and forms on birth certificates and all of that is going to have to change too. So keep talking, because the more voices, the more people who hear this, the more we can get to a level where a lot of these systems, down to the roots, will change.
Well, I've always really appreciated your support. From the minute I told you I was doing this, you were supportive. And there were times when I didn't even know why I was doing this podcast. I didn't know why I was collecting these stories. But I think there's a sea change coming in the way that we think about families, and the way that we think about fertility, and how you go about creating your family, whether it's using a Mosie Baby or whether it's some other method altogether, or perhaps not even thinking about children as part of a family. And so thank you for being the voice for so many, and the resource, the educational resource, and the physical tool to get you there. It's huge. So Maureen, if we wanted to find you or find Mosie Baby, how do we do that?
So you can find us at mosiebaby.com. So that's MOSIEBABY.com. And you can email, there's contact us page there. You can search our website for articles. You can also find videos on YouTube. You can follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, and Pinterest. We're on there a little bit, trying to get more. But we just started a TikTok. Whether or not TikTok exists, we have one. So you can check us out there too. And also you can email me. You can email Maureen, MAUREEN, at mosiebaby.com. And we love to talk about trying to conceive, and happy to help answer as best we can your scenario, what's going on with you. But obviously we recommend you check with your doctor, your provider. We will point you to information if we don't know the answer and we can't answer it ourselves. We try to be honest, straightforward, and respectful. Wherever you are in your path, I wish you well. Julia, I wish you well. Thank you for having this conversation.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Stork'd with your host, Julia Carroll. This podcast is changing the conversation around the ways people define and create family. For more information, visit storkedpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter. And while you're there, leave us a message describing what a modern family means to you. That's STORKD podcast.com.